Good morning. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. My name is Marilyn Orr, President of the club, and we are thrilled to have you join us today. This meeting broadcast is available on HCTV, as well as our Rotary of Hudson YouTube channel and Facebook. Our club meets weekly using this digital platform, Zoom. When we meet in person, it's at Laurel Lake Retirement Community for breakfast. We hope to get back to that soon. We meet most Wednesday mornings from 7:15 to 8:30 a.m. So come out to join us for a meeting. We would love to have you as a guest. To learn more about Rotary, our club, and the impact we are having on our local community and the world, please visit our website, rotaryhudson.org. So enjoy this meeting today and help us share the message that Rotary opens doors of opportunity.
And we're ready.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. I'm Ron Strobel, the Sergeant at Arms, and would like to welcome everybody to the new year since I was missing last week. So our invocation this morning is by Father Joe Boisel.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, it was
Nice
okay. Like all of you, this past week has been one that has shocked and stunned me as I look about our nation. And so I thought this morning I would open with a prayer from the Book of Common Prayer. I'll change the ending so that it's inclusive to all faiths, but this is a prayer for our nation. And so I invite you to pray with me. Almighty God, who has given us this good land for our heritage, we humbly beseech thee that we may always prove ourselves a people mindful of thy favor and glad to do thy will. Bless our land with honorable industry, sound learning, and pure conduct. Save us from violence, discord, and confusion, from pride and arrogance, and from every evil way. Defend our liberties and fashion into one united people the multitudes brought hither out of many kindreds and tongues. Endue with the spirit of wisdom to those who, in thy name, we entrust the authority of government, that there may be justice and peace at home, and that through obedience to thy law, we may show forth thy praise among the nations of the earth. In the time of prosperity, fill our hearts with thankfulness, and in the day of trouble, suffer not our trust in thee to fail. All of which we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father Joe. And now to lead us in the pledge and the four-way test, Elizabeth Kowalik.
Good morning, Rotarians.
Morning.
Morning.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the four-way test of the things that we think, say, and we do. Number one, is it the truth? Number two, is it fair to all concerned? Number three, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And four, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, Elizabeth. And now our president, Marilyn Orr.
Good morning, Rotarians and guests. Welcome to our meeting. You know, every time I see the four-way test, I am reminded of just how wonderful those few sentences are. And I'm very, very grateful that we have that as a guidepost for our lives. A very quick reminder that we have a club board meeting scheduled immediately following this meeting today at 8:30. Any active member is encouraged to attend this meeting. I expect that it will conclude by 9:30. Just an update on a few members. Liz Ramsey had surgery on Monday for a foot infection at the Western Reserve Hospital, she's no longer there, which is good news. She is now a patient at the Heritage of Hudson on Barlow. Liz has headed our Sunshine effort for several years. She makes sure that Rotarians are acknowledged on their birthdays and sent cards to those who are ill or just need a little pick-me-up. And I'm thinking that the tables have turned this week, and now it's time for us to make sure that Liz realizes how much this club appreciates her. You'll find her address on our club website, or if you're unfamiliar with how to access that, just shoot me an email and I'll get it out to you. But right now, she's at the Heritage on Barlow here in Hudson. Unfortunately, we really can't visit her, but she's got her phone. Let's just put it that way. So we can always reach out that way. Ben Rexroad is scheduled for surgery tomorrow, so please keep him in your prayers for a successful procedure and a rapid recovery. Today, we are welcoming a friend of Rotary and a Hudson neighbor. Bill Sepe is well known to many of us from his prior work with the Boy Scouts, and many of us also know him from St. Mary. He's going to share his new passion, and he'll reveal what's going on with TASCforce, the Trail Advocates of Summit County. He's also accompanied today by Ron Brubaker, the other co-director of that program. Welcome, Bill and Ron, and share with us what's going on with that organization. We're anxious to know.
Well, thank you for having us, Marilyn. And yes, it's good to see a lot of familiar faces here in the audience today. I feel like I'm at home today. Am I able to share my screen right now? Do you have me with share screen capability?
Yeah, so if you click on share screen and then you select the screen that you want to share, that'll be shared, but only that screen. So if you have multiple screens open, just share the the one that you want to share. So it should be at the bottom of your screen if you're on.
Yep, I got it. Okay. Okay, so can everybody see that now?
Bill Libby, did you just share your screen?
Yeah, I did.
Well, no, Bill, it says Bill Libby's screen is being shared.
Oh.
Hang on one second. Okay, I just stopped Bill Libby from sharing his screen. Okay, try that again, please. Bill Libby, stop clicking on sharing your screen, please.
Here we go.
There we go.
Oops. How's that?
That we can see it now. Very good.
Okay. Again, we appreciate the opportunity to present to you folks this morning what TASCforce is all about. Unless you've been living in a cave and don't read either the Akron Beacon Journal or the Hudson Hub Times or any of the other record publishing newspapers, you've probably seen some things in the paper, and we'll talk about that today in our presentation. So what is TASCforce? So we are a nonprofit organization. We started in 2019. Ron Brubaker, who is the founder of the organization and my co-director, and a very long time good friend, started it and invited me to get involved in it since we were both retired and had nothing better to do. Our goal is to garner public support for multi-purpose trails in Summit County. And for the past 20 months, we have been focused on a project known as the Veterans Trail. Others refer to it as the Akron Secondary Line. My guess is that a lot of people don't know much about the Akron secondary line, but I found out an awful lot of it from talking to Tom Vince. This project will probably take many, many years. We found out by talking to a lot of trail builders that trail projects are measured in decades, not in years. But we're committed to working with local governments, the county agencies, and public at large to make this trail a reality. So what are our beliefs? Because I feel that every organization has to have some beliefs in their fiber. We understand that building a trail like this is expensive, but it's an investment that will live on in perpetuity. I think during this pandemic, everybody has found that it's great to get outdoors and get some exercise, especially when people are concerned about going back to their gyms and working out in close proximity to people. And so they're really important for us right now, more than ever, to sustain healthy lifestyles. We also believe that there's an economic benefit to the community that they exist in by boosting property values. It's interesting, we were talking about taxes and property values at the beginning. Adding recreational opportunities, creating opportunities for alternative ways to commute to work. I used to commute to downtown Cleveland on my bicycle when I was still working at Sherwin-Williams. Improving fitness, increasing tourism, and providing access to businesses and retail stores. So again, who started TASCforce? Ron Brubaker. He's our founder and co-director, 38-year resident of Hudson. He retired from Goodyear after 46 years there, and his last position was an IT project manager. And myself, his partner in crime, I was in Hudson for 29 years. We moved to Stowe in 2016, right at the end of 2016. My career spanned 25 years at Sherwin-Williams, and my last position there was Director of Engineering. We just like to say we're a couple of retired engineers that were looking for a way to give back to our community. Just another, I guess, a comment about Ron and myself. When I moved to Hudson in 1987, my then 5-year-old son went knocking on doors to look for somebody to play with, and he found a playmate in Ron's son, Roy. And those two guys have maintained a relationship over the years, got their Eagle Scout badges together, both went to Miami of Ohio, and were in the same fraternity, stood up for each other at their weddings, kept in touch over the years. So I guess Ron's more family than he is a friend. So that's kind of a little bit of a background on Ron and myself. We last year was a tough year for us, but we did add a couple of other folks to our team. Mike Helver, who's been a homeowner in Hudson since 2013. He retired after 20 years working with Saudi Aramco. He's an avid runner and a hiker, and he's a coach over at Western Reserve Academy. And then we have a young man by the name of Austin Rao who lives in Cuyahoga Falls. We wanted to get somebody representing us down in Cuyahoga Falls. He works for Hubble as an electrical engineer. I don't know why we seem to attract all the science and engineering folks, but that's just the way it seems to be. We also have a fifth person who recently joined our team as our legal advisor, Amanda Clapp, but we don't have her bio and pick ready yet. So here's some background on the proposed trail. It's an abandoned railroad right-of-way that runs through Akron, Cuyahoga Falls, Silver Lake, Stowe, and into Hudson. It's about 12.5 miles long. That track has been abandoned since 1996. There hasn't been a train on it since then. It's been long recognized as an ideal trail opportunity, and actually the 5 communities that it spans paid for a study by the Environmental Design Group in 2005 to come up with a preliminary plan and a cost estimate for building the trail. It was set aside for whatever reason, but it has been identified by the Akron Metropolitan Area Transportation Study as a project for the future. The owner, and as we say Metro RTA is the owner, they own probably 95% of that right-of-way until you get into Hudson, I believe at Barlow Road, and then from there it's the Norfolk Southern folks own the right-of-way. They've indicated, Metro's indicated that they are willing to allow it to be used for a trail, as they did with the Freedom Trail. If any of you hike and bike and are familiar at all with the Freedom Trail, it was probably the most recent multi-purpose trail that Summit Metro Parks manages. And Summit Metro Parks has expressed to us an interest in partnering with Metro RTA to build and manage this trail when it happens. And you can see on the right-hand side, we show the route of this trail, this right-of-way. Interesting, for those of you who wonder where this would end in Hudson, right behind the Acme Plaza is kind of where it ends, up there on Veterans Way. And down at the bottom in Akron, we've actually hiked a good, most of this right-of-way, Ron and myself and Mike and Austin. It actually ends at the north end terminal and would connect, provide a connector to the towpath trail in Akron. So I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with that, but that's where a lot of folks get on the Cuyahoga Valley Railroad down in Akron. So what's the condition of that right-of-way? As we said, the last train ran on these tracks in 1996, and a significant amount of the track has been removed south of Broad Avenue in Cuyahoga Falls. The tracks north of Broad Avenue, they're in poor condition. I mean, a lot of the railroad ties, even if they haven't been removed, are all rotted away, and it would require significant repair in order to be used again. In fact, we spoke with a consulting engineering firm and put a cost to what it would take to put this line back together again for rail, and it was well over $10 million. Crossings have been paved over at Macaulay Road, Springdale Road, and most recently in 2019, the City of Stowe paved over the crossing at Graham Road right next to Silver Lake Country Club. There are some sections of the right-of-way that are better than others, but in some areas there are trees that are 50 foot tall that can be found just coming up right through the track bed. And more disconcerting is that the bridges haven't been maintained for rail use. It would probably require a heavy investment to get it back into service for rail. Here's some pictures that we thought would, we've been sharing these with some of the folks we've been presenting to. There's the one on the left, you can see the trees just growing through the track bed down in Cuyahoga Falls. And then in the summertime, when you start getting thick vegetation, you can see some of it is so thick with vegetation that it's impassable on foot. As we've walked some of this right-of-way, we've had to take tools with us to be able to clear a path to be able to walk it. So why does TASCforce think this would make an ideal trail? Well, it connects these 5 communities, Hudson, Stowe, Silver Lake, Cuyahoga Falls, and Akron, and it provides a north to south trail that's right up through the densely populated middle of the county. We've had some conversations with one of the chief planners at Summit Metro Parks, and at times he kind of sounded like he was thinking this was a redundant trail, but we said, that's not really the case because the towpath trail is a north-south trail, but it runs far to the west. The Freedom Trail runs from Akron and goes to the northeast up into Kent. The bike and hike trail that I'm sure many of you have used, and we've all used it so many times, it's a great asset, but it goes up to the Cuyahoga County line, but it runs more northwest to southeast. So it really doesn't provide a north-south line that would allow for commuting from Hudson to Akron and vice versa. The other thing that's great about this right-of-way is that there are 7 trails that it would intersect with. We've counted them all. We're more than happy to give you the list. We've counted all the different trails in Summit County that this trail would somehow make a connection to. The right-of-way goes along and crosses over the Cuyahoga River. And in Silver Lake, it passes by the golf course there, Silver Lake. Stowe has a number of secluded sections. And in Hudson, it passes by a private lake, the Ellsworth Meadows Golf Course, O'Brien Cemetery, and then the Cascade and Veterans Way parks. There's just some pictures that Ron had taken of the right-of-way as it looks today. These are winter shots, but there's a picture there on the left of the trail looking north by O'Brien Cemetery in Hudson. The private tree farm is on the left. And then there's another shot of the trail looking south, and you can see in the distance the bike and hike trail, the existing Summit Metro Parks hike and bike trail that would be really easy to make a connection to this right-of-way off of that trail. And some additional pictures on the Veterans Trail passing under the Terex Road Bridge there on the left. And then this other one down in Cuyahoga Falls by Front Street, this beautiful bridge at the river. And there's just a gorgeous section right there as you head south into Cuyahoga Falls towards Akron, where I can just envision riding my bicycle and looking out to my right over the river. Just absolutely gorgeous. I don't have the words to describe it right now, but it would be a wonderful thing. So what have we been doing to promote this project? So in 2020, the coronavirus pandemic really interfered with many of our plans. We had a lot of things scheduled, and of course they all require face-to-face meeting and garnering more support, attending running and biking events and talking with people who would use this type of trail. And unfortunately, we were not able to build our membership ranks as we had hoped because of COVID. But we were still able to attend a lot of meetings via Zoom. And we were able to get letters of support from Mayor John Ferbonic from the city of Stowe, Mayor Bernie Hovey down at the village of Silver Lake, Don Walters, Mayor of Cuyahoga Falls. 5 of our city council members from Hudson have written letters of support. We got great letters from both Casey Weinstein and Christina Rogna, and also many individual trail users have written to Metro RTA and Summit Metro Parks, throwing their support for the project. So there's been some. We would just love to see more people. We just feel that the more people that let Summit Metro Park and Metro RTA know that they're behind this project, we think the better it's going to go, and we'll explain that in a minute. So what's the present state of the project as we head into 2021? So I guess let's back up to December 2019. The city of Stowe has already received a $700,000 grant from AMATS in their TASA funds, and those funds are available in 2024 for a 1.2 mile segment of the trail in Stowe. When we met with Jim McCleary, the city engineer, his #1 concern was taking people off of the bike and hike trail that goes through a residential section of Stowe and putting it on that right of way. And the city of Stowe Engineering Department is basically planning to do the engineering on all of that segment once the right of way has been granted for this trail project. Metro RTA is basically saying to us that they want to put the trail there. They acquired this right of way from the Federal Transportation Administration back in 1996 with federal funds, with it being designated for rail service. However, like many things in government, they have to go back and ask FTA if they can change the usage from rail to trail, and they have to get that approval before we can do anything. This was going to happen in the fall of 2020, and it's a very tedious process, as we found out. Nothing moves fast in government. certainly not the way we were used to doing it in our corporate lives back at Goodyear and Sherwin-Williams. And now we're being told that it'll probably be further delayed as the new administration takes over in Washington this month. So that's all we can say about that. Now, in recent events, as I said earlier in my discussion, in my presentation, in December of last year, the Akron Beacon Journal and several of the suburban newspapers ran a story about a proposal to reactivate the rail line. A small startup rail company called Hudson and Southern has an idea to introduce rail traffic on this right-of-way. We're not sure how they think that they can be successful, and we're not sure that they have the funds that it would take to put that rail back in service. It's a lot of money. We're in full disagreement with the option to go back to rail, obviously, since we're all about building trails. And we were interviewed and had follow-up stories in the Akron Beacon Journal. The Record Courier carried the story in the Hudson Hub Times, and I'm hopeful they're going to be running one if they haven't already in the Stowe Century. And we were also interviewed by Hudson Life. If you get that magazine, there was an article about it in January. And Metro RTA has come out publicly stated that they prefer the trail option, and that's the way they're leaning right now. Hudson, Stowe, and Cuyahoga Falls all have stated that they prefer the trail project. We attended all of the most recent city council meetings by those three entities and let them know our thoughts. And they basically all said they were surprised by this rail plan. They sort of were blindsided. We are planning to get in front of the Akron City Council as well. And we also, I think Ron spoke at the most recent Silver Lake City Council meeting. So we always like to end by saying, we like to tell our audience, you can help us support the project by doing some of the following things. If you're so inclined, to write a letter to Metro RTA asking them to dismiss the rail proposal and embrace this multi-purpose trail instead. And asking them to make that application with Federal Transit Administration immediately to permit the right-of-way to be repurposed as a multi-purpose trail. Ron and I had a conversation with a gentleman by the name of Josh Prest, who is in Senator Rob Portman's office in Cleveland. And Josh indicated that Rob's office had people that could help facilitate that FTA application. We've offered that up to Metro RTA. They haven't indicated that they want to take that help yet. I'm not sure why, but that's their business. TASCforce does not try to speak for any public entity such as Metro RTA or Summit Metro Parks. We're just trying to push the rock down the road, so to speak. Once they get that application approved and get the usage of the trail from rail over to a multi-purpose trail, what we want to see them do is get the leases signed with Summit Metro Parks, which is how they did the Freedom Trail. Summit Metro Parks actually took out a 50-year lease from Metro RTA for that right-of-way where they built their trail that runs from Akron up into Kent. So those are the kind of things we're looking for. And I think this last slide is conclusion. If you go, we have a website. It's TASCforce, and that's TASC force.org, not com. But if you go online to TASCforce.org, and you can sign up and receive updates on our progress. And also you can find information there on our website for who to specifically send letters of support to at Metro RTA. We've been directing them to Dawn Disler. She's the CEO. She's in charge. She knows we're out there, and we have talked to Dawn. She knows of TASCforce. She knows what we're about. And she told Ron one time, we told her, we said, Dawn, we're out there talking to the public, pushing for this trail, and she said, as well you should be. So that's our presentation. I hope it was informative for everyone, and certainly Ron and I are open to take any questions from the audience.
Now, our usual method for accepting questions is for the people to post them through the chat feature.
Sure.
And for James Field to kind of bring things forward. Personally, I am a bike rider as well. I have an e-bike that I've had for almost going on 4 years now. And rail to trail bike paths are my preferred trail because of the grade. The grade makes it so much easier for a senior rider that it's really wonderful. I've ridden on these types of paths in Virginia as well as South Dakota, and it's a great form of getting out and getting about. So let's start dealing with some questions right now. My question deals with the Freedom Trail and how it was actually originated. Are some of those people still involved with have you been tracking back with them to see how that trail got formed? Was it a similar way?
Yeah, well, actually, we're really talking to the same group of people that were involved in the Freedom Trail. A gentleman by the name of Nick Moskos, who's he's the chief planner and designer. I'm not sure. Ron Brubaker will probably remember better than I would what Nick's educational background is, but he's been with Metro Parks for a while, and he was involved with that project, and he is he knows what we want to do. And Lisa King, who's the executive director of Summit Metro Parks, they understand. I guess one other thing too, Marilyn, that we should tell you, we didn't have this in the presentation. We have built up an alliance with several organizations. We have several partners, and probably our strongest partner is the Ohio and Erie Canalway Coalition. Ron and I, fortunately, were able to meet face-to-face with Dan Rice in 2019 before the pandemic, and we've met with him via Zoom since then. Dan, we sort of see as a consigliere, because as somebody told us, trails don't get built in Northeast Ohio without Dan Rice. And Dan has been a great supporter of our project. He has been as sort of an advisor. He knows and understands that with our corporate backgrounds, where we're used to getting projects done at a faster pace, that you have to be slow, you have to be patient, you have to go at the speed that the organizations you're working with are willing to go. So he's probably been our greatest advisor. Another person that was very helpful to us at the beginning, I have to say, is Gloria Rogers, our Summit County councilwoman. She introduced us to a couple of people that helped get us into to see Dan Rice and a couple of other folks, and given us names of people to talk to that are know and understand how to get trails built.
Okay, we have several questions, so I'm going to go ahead and read the questions. They're also in the chat area. First one was whether you've asked support from the Akron and Hudson Leagues of Women Voters. Another one just thanks you for the work that you're doing in the community. Another one is asking if you're a 501c3. Next one says, do all city segments of the trail need to be approved at the same time for any city stow to proceed? Question whether you've presented to the Stowe and Cuyahoga Falls Rotary Clubs. What can Hudson do to support it, and has the mayor endorsed it, or why has he not? And what work needs to do for the conversion? What's your estimate of the cost? And can you unmute Ron Brubaker? Well, Ron, you'll have to unmute yourself.
I just did, thank you.
Okay, I understand that the FTA is constrained by World War II law that all railroad lines are set aside in case of another war. So anyway, so that's a lot of questions. I don't know if you can open the chat, you can see them all and
Yep.
see which ones you can hit.
Yeah, I can see him. I think the first question regarding reaching out to other organizations, those are two great ideas. We had been making a list of, who do we want to present to, who do we want to go to get support from, and COVID hit, so we've somewhat been restricted. I think we got invited here because I had spoken to Marilyn Orr. I knew Marilyn from St. Mary's and Lamb, and my good friend Marilyn called me and invited me to come and speak. And that's kind of how these things work. So we are tickled to death to talk to people. We'll talk to any organization that is willing to listen and throw their support behind our effort.
If I could add, Bill, we did speak to the Clock Tower Rotary back before COVID hit. And
Yes, we did.
in person.
Yeah.
In the good old
That
days.
was a lunchtime meeting. I didn't have to get up at 0 dark 100 for that.
Sorry.
But hey, that's just a retired guy talking. Andy Morse asked about 501c3. We have talked about that. We wanted to do that. We understand it's a very tedious process. But what we did find out last year with Dan Rice was that by virtue of signing an agreement with Ohio and Erie Canalway Coalition, they are a 501c3, that we could literally scab off of their 501c3 and go that route. Our legal advisor, Amanda Clapp, has reviewed the document, and she had some questions about it. For some personal reasons that crept into her life last year, she's had to take on additional responsibilities at her company, basically had to take over for her dad, who passed away early in the year. We haven't been able to lock that down, but we are going to pursue that. One way or the other, we're either going to, become a full-time fledged partner of Ohio and Erie Canalway, or we will go out and get our own 501c3 designation. So, Jim Mahern asked, do all city segments of the trail need to be approved at the same time? No, they don't. The way this works is each city has the opportunity to submit for requests for funding from AMATs, and they happen in the odd years. So actually this year coming up is the opportunity for cities to submit their projects to AMATs for federal funds. And AMATs uses a scoring system to score the projects, and whoever gets the highest score gets the money. And in 2019, Stowe was #2. City of Akron was #1. They have money designated for the Rubber City Heritage Trail, which is an interesting project in of itself, which this trail we're talking about would ultimately lead to. It will connect all of the old rubber factories in downtown Akron. So we found out about that trail through a meeting we had with Mike Teodecki in the City of Akron Engineering Department in 2019. But each city can go after their funding separately, and they determine how much of it they want to go for funding. That's how that works. Patrick Shearer asked about Stowe and Cuyahoga Falls Rotary clubs. We haven't yet. They're on our list. Again, getting the introductions there would be helpful. I don't know that Austin knows anybody in CF Rotary. Being that I'm fairly new to Stowe, but I am starting to learn and getting to know our city council folks and Mayor Probanik. Certainly, we'd love the opportunity to present to them. So that's definitely on the docket.
Well, we can help with that.
Sure, I'm sure you can. My good friend Andy Morse asked about what can Hudson officially do to support this. So they've been very, very supportive, Andy. The City Council has, well, you know what? Since I no longer live in Hudson, Ron, why don't you talk a little bit about this? I've talked enough.
Okay, given a couple presentations to Hudson City Council. Most recent one was in December, I think December 15th. And we were asking for a letter of support from the full City Council and Mayor. That was followed by a discussion amongst the City Council members, and every one of them and the Mayor agreed that they should submit a letter. They put it on the agenda for a meeting last night, and I'm a little embarrassed to say I wasn't able to watch that meeting last night, but I think they are submitting a letter to Metro RTA encouraging them to move forward with this project. Let me just add to that these letters are useful in two regards. First of all, it cements Metro RTA's decision to build a trail or allow a trail to be built. But beyond that, it gives them documentation that they can take to the Federal Transit Administration and show that there's a lot of community support for a trail there. So every additional letter is being compiled into a book at Metro RTA. And if your Rotary group could come together and submit a letter, that would go into that book and be used as part of the documentation with their application to convert it to a trail.
All right, next question that I see is from Tom Tobin. Hi, Tom. What work needs to be done to complete the conversion? How much do you estimate it will cost? That's probably, Ron, I think you had some firm numbers from what was the per mile cost to build the Freedom Trail, which is the most recent one. You know, back when the study was done in 2005, they had some numbers I think it was like $28 per lineal foot to build the trail in 2005. And I don't even want to try to extrapolate. I wouldn't even know how to extrapolate that to today's dollars, because I know and understand about building a paint plant, but not building a bike trail. But Ron, how much did the Freedom Trail cost?
So we talked to Mark Zeramet, one of the planners at Summit Metro Parks, about that. And he did a little analysis, and he said it came out to about $750,000 a mile for that trail. So if you use that number and 12.5 miles here, it's roughly $10 million would be the cost to build it. And let me just go back to a number that Bill gave about the rail costing $10 million. I think that was for just part of the rail, wasn't it, Bill? That the full
that was making an assumption that 25% of, or I think it was like 25% of the trail would need to be completely rebuilt. The actual cost that we got from the outside consulting firm, if say the whole 12 miles had to be done, would be somewhere over $40 million to rebuild that line.
So about $10 million for the trail. We got 700,000 so far.
It's interesting that, I'm looking at this, the comment from Bill Libby to everyone. He says, I understand the FTA is constrained by a World War II law. That's interesting, because I didn't know that. I didn't hear that. Hadn't heard that before, but it's an interesting point. But when you walk this trail, especially down near Akron, you come to realize it's amazing how much rail activity in and around Akron and through Summit County there was back in the day. Of course, the rail traffic is nowhere near what it used to be, but there's still quite a few active trains running into and out of Akron. It's really quite impressive.
Let me interject something for a minute. I was on the original committee that did that study back in the late 90s, early 2000. I've walked that whole trail. I really appreciate what you guys are doing for it. The idea that another group could start a new railroad company, come in and put it on a trail. That just is not feasible. We had that same problem a few years ago when a group wanted to develop a dinner train for that area, and that fell apart. None of these groups understand how much money it's going to cost to put that rail in usable shape. The one thing you guys didn't mention is a couple bridges in there that have to be rebuilt also. So I think that when you look at putting other alternative uses in there, none of them are financially feasible. So the trail makes a lot of sense. The Freedom Trail, I ride quite often in the summer. That's a great addition. This would be very similar to that. So I applaud you guys. I support you any way I can.
Great. Thank you so much.
If I could just add to the, thanks, Dan, to the question from Bill Libby about the World War II law. Converting it to trail use would still enable it to be put back to a rail if there was a national emergency like that. It will still be owned, one continuous piece from Akron all the way up to Barlow Road by Metro RTA. It'll just be leased to Summit Metro Parks and the trail will be built. Probably be easier to build a railroad on a trail than to build it on what's there now, actually.
Marilyn asked about what AMAT stands for. AMAT stands for the Akron Metropolitan Area Transportation Study. They are a government agency in Akron that is responsible for all transportation. It's not just trails, it's roads, it's buses, rails, anything that has to do with transportation. And they basically look at that area, this whole metropolitan area that I believe, it encompasses all of Summit County, I think parts of Stark County and maybe even Portage County. They look at all of the different projects that are needed and basically allocate federal funds to help pay for these infrastructure improvement projects. James Field asked a question about Congressman David Joyce. We actually did reach out to David Joyce's office last year, but it could have been that we hit him at a point where he was working on getting reelected and never did hear back from his office. As far as Rob Portman, the answer we got from Josh Prest about them getting involved in the project is that this is not considered to be a federal project. So because it's not a federal project, Rob Portman can't help us with this. He can help with again, that whole concept of getting the FTA to cede the land from rail to trail usage. And again, it's probably something we need to put on our to-do list for 2021 is circle back with David Joyce now that he got reelected.
We have also reached out to Sherrod Brown and Tim Ryan. We had a little discussion with Tim Ryan, but we haven't completed a letter from him yet.
If I can jump on for just 1 second. Bill, you may not have been able to get a hold of Congressman Joyce, but City Council, some members, Skylar Sutton and I, spent time with Congressman Joyce, and he has been on your side, our side, pushing as well. He's kept us up to date with what he's heard from the Federal Rail Commission, and we've kept him up to date with what we've heard on council as well. And so, he has been involved in the process. It's mostly his chief of staff who's been involved, but he's keenly aware of everything that's going on. And at City Council last night, actually, we did not discuss the letter, Ron. However, we have discussed the endorsement as a body in email already, and I believe our solicitor is working on sending that through. Everybody on City Council in Hudson is very supportive of it. And there was one other quick question that Marilyn had asked about connecting Cascade Park bordering Barlow. That was called the Spine Project in Hudson, and that was going to go down behind Nicholson and would connect Cascade to Barlow. The ideal location for the Spine Project is exactly the trail that Bill is talking about. It's on the east side of Ellsworth rather than the west side of Ellsworth. And that's, that's the ideal, that's the goal, because the west side of Ellsworth would have deforested, backyards and had a fairly substantial impact on the residents there. Whereas on the east side, it would connect downtown, it would continue to go down through Barlow. It would just have so many more benefits for residents in the city of Hudson and none of the drawbacks that the original Spine Trail had. So Hudson City Council's been hugely behind this. I mean, we're big supporters.
I'll just add that part of the rail north of Barlow up to downtown Hudson is owned by Norfolk Southern. And the thinking is that if Metro RTA allows their portion south of Barlow all the way to Akron to be converted to a trail, that little piece north of Barlow to downtown Hudson is of very little value to Norfolk Southern. And maybe that would encourage them to allow a trail to be built there as well.
Agreed, and that's been my impression as well. I mean, the Metro RTA, exactly what you said about the funding is correct. The funding is tied up in the federal grant money, and they were given to take over this trail, and they're trying to peel that back so that the Fed would allow them to hand it over to the trail without having to give back some of the funding. So that's where you end up in a tricky spot on the federal level. Metro RTA, not Metro RTA, Norfolk Southern is notorious for not really expressing an opinion on anything. So they're a tough one. But if this trail converted up through RTA territory, I'm relatively sure that Norfolk Southern would go along with it as well, because there would be no other use. There's only one business they could connect to. They could never make this line profitable in Hudson.
I'll just add, that's something else that Josh Prest from Senator Rob Portman's office said he thought they could help with was getting a contact at Norfolk Southern to talk about this.
Yeah, we have found out, Chris, that's very much true. Another one of our allies is Christina Craycroft, who heads up the Portage County Park District, and she was bemoaning how difficult it was to get Norfolk and Southern moving on some issues that they have with regard to extension of a trail in Portage County. So we're not being so singled out for this one. It's a universal problem for everybody when it comes to Norfolk Southern.
I'll give you an example of a Norfolk Southern discussion. We had Congressman Joyce in our town hall, city hall in the city of Hudson. Congressman Joyce, Representative Weinstein, Senator Rogner, the mayor, the city manager, 2 other members of city council, all on a call with Norfolk Southern. And, the result was, well, we'll think about it.
I'm just going to jump in here. I'm going to share a screen of the actual website so that people can go in and sign up. There we go. So there's actually a place where you can sign up online, send letters of support, donate, contacts, and all kinds of information. So I just wanted to share that with everyone.
Thank you for doing that. Those photos that are scrolling there are photos taken starting at the southern end of the trail and coming north. So you can kind of get a feel for what sections of that trail look like. And as far as signing up goes, it literally takes about a minute. You put your name and your telephone number in there, check a couple boxes, and that's it. And once you do, then you will get news updates from us periodically. And we also have a Facebook page, TASCforce LLC, where you can like us and follow us on TASCforce as well.
Well, we had one last question before we close this today that I'd like you to address, and that is, show us the money. Where is it going to come from to get this built? And Bill, you had posted in the chat featured, but I'd like record this just for the folks who are going to be viewing this on
Yes,
another.
there are a number of organizations that, and we're not at the point where we can we're ready to start collecting money, or start asking for grants. Although it does take time, to get write for a grant and get get the money allocated for building this type of a trail project. So there are a number of organizations, like one that I mentioned there, the Ohio Department of Natural Resources is one that comes to mind. There's a couple of others. I know there's a sign out on the Freedom Trail that says, this trail was built with help from, I think it was Ohio Clean Water or something like that. Of course, the other thing too is that personal donations. We're collecting donations right now, but those donations are not being used to build a trail. They're basically helping us with printed material to keep our website running and basically to do our advocacy work that we need to do to get the word out. I do believe that I had talked to Ron and suggested that there may be some opportunities where there are people in Summit County that would possibly have some money that would like to make a charitable donation to an effort like this, and we'll certainly explore that as when the time comes. Bill Libby asked if we are both bikers. We indeed are. In fact, I blame Ron for becoming a road biker in 2009. He had a spare Cannondale bike, and he goes, "Hey, why don't you try this road bike?" He says, "You'll like it a lot better than your hybrid that you ride." And then my wife got really mad when I took her down to Eddie's bike shop, and I said, "Look at this really nice $2,000 road bike." She goes, "Nah, you're not getting that."
It's a slippery slope, I'll tell you. It is indeed a slippery slope.
Marilyn, can I just make one comment?
Sure.
Bill, if you're looking for money, you really need to have some kind of a charitable status to give a deduction.
Right.
I might suggest you might want to consider approaching either the Akron Community Foundation or the Hudson Community Foundation to become an entity under their tax umbrella, which means you don't have to apply to the IRS. You just fit under their tax umbrella, which would allow you instantly available to make to receive contributions and for those people who contribute to get a tax deduction for it.
Great. Thank you, Bill.
And I think that may be one of the most valuable things you've learned today.
Yeah, very much so.
Absolutely. Well, with that, I really want to thank you for presenting this, because this isn't a project, as you said in the beginning, that's going to happen in the next few years. We're talking about laying the groundwork for getting this project done right so that it actually can come to fruition. And thank you very much for that. As we close today, I'm going to look back in history. In 1610, Galileo discovered Callisto, the fourth satellite of Jupiter. In 1785, John Walter publishes the very first issue of the Times of London. In 1794, Congress changes the U.S. flag to 15 stars and 15 stripes. In 1818, after 5 states had been admitted to the Union, Congress enacted the third and the final flag resolution, requiring that henceforth the number of stripes would remain at the original 13, but the number of stars would always match the number of states, and any new star should be added on the 4th of July following that state's admission. And lastly, in 2000, Microsoft chairman Bill Gates steps aside as the chief executive and promotes company president Steve Ballmer to the position at Microsoft. He has spent much of his retirement working on behalf of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which has been a welcome partner of our Rotary International in the efforts to eradicate polio. So there you go. And thank you very much for joining us this morning. And we wish you all the best in your efforts to get this trail put together. Thank you. We are truly building for the future together.
Thank you.
That concludes this meeting. We will start our board meeting as soon as we settle things down, and James is going to pass the hosting duties to me.